Manchester United definitely haven't had the best week this week, and I think that is an understatement. The club is in an absolute crisis. Situations going on with Antony. The club's really under pressure to suspend Antony, and Antony looks more and more likely to be suspended considering he's been dropped by the Brazilian national team. The Jadon Sancho Ten Hag fallout is not going well. Sancho's not apologised. Ten Hag is not happy, and tensions have risen between those two players. Donny van der Beek kicked out from the squad by Erik ten Hag. If you're an ex-Ajax player getting kicked out of the squad, you know things are bad. And Eric Bailly was also kicked out, but is set to get his move over to Turkey. Donny also set to move over to Turkey. Sancho's got big offers coming in from Saudi Arabia. Antony could be kicked out, and Manchester United could be 4 players shorter in the dressing room this week, which, you know what, with the dressing room issues going on, if anyone is causing a problem, I think they do need to be removed because dressing room issues cause a drop in performances. But it is a bit of a crisis at United now. You know, there is some positivity. Wan-Bissaka set to be given a new deal, but is Wan-Bissaka good enough to be Man United's starting right back over the next few years? We will talk about that amongst more. But let's get into this first story here. And it's come out from Court Offside that Justin, a Saudi club, has submitted a sensible offer to Man United following a hitch for Jadon Sancho. Now, the question is, will Sancho go to Saudi Arabia? I'd be pretty surprised. I can't see Sancho wanting to move to Saudi Arabia. I know he wants to get rid of out of Man United. I know he wants game time, but I think he's so young, he'd probably want to go to Europe. I don't think he's that money obsessed to go to Saudi Arabia. I think if Man United did get a good offer from Saudi Arabia, I think they'd actually accept, because it was said, you know, Ten Hag's open to selling Sancho if the right offer comes in. The fact that he's fallen out, Ten Hag and Sancho, if the right offer comes in, I think Ten Hag's more than willing to sell Sancho, even with this Antony situation looming. Ten Hag would rather be short of a player like with Ronaldo than have a player that doesn't want to be here. So go in more depth about this report and what it was kind of said as well. It went into detail and essentially said that Saudi Arabian sides are now looking at Jadon Sancho after reported fallout with Erik ten Hag. And according to journalist Rudy Galetto, he tweeted that a Saudi side are interested in Jadon Sancho. He said a Saudi club is exploring the opportunity to sign Jadon Sancho and just sent in an official offer for the player as well. However, we know that Sancho has always kind of dreamed of a move to a European club or a loan back to the Bundesliga. However, you know that transfer window is only open in like Turkey and Saudi Arabia. So Sancho's got to A, make up with Ten Hag, B, not make up with Ten Hag and not play again until January, or C, go on a move to Saudi Arabia. And hopefully it's A, he makes up with Ten Hag, he gets back on track, and, you know, everything goes well. You know, we've seen that Arteta had fallen out with Xhaka in the past and they made up, and Xhaka was quite an important player for Arsenal. So hopefully they end up making up. But this one goes beyond Sancho. Sancho's had a falling out with the manager. That can be made up if Sancho wants to make up, if Ten Hag wants to make up. And if Sancho puts his head down and works hard, Sancho's fine. But this Antony situation is out of our control, and it's come out today that Manchester United are evaluating removing Antony after new complaints from his ex-girlfriend. Now, to give context to the Antony situation, this has been looming for months. But 2 days ago, photos were released and messages were released between Antony and his girlfriend, which showed that Antony was very controlling, showed where Antony had allegedly hit her, Antony had allegedly damaged her fingers, and more information has come out. Because of the photo leaks, because this is now being reported by the British press and the Greater Manchester Police have come out with a statement saying they're investigating Antony. There's now a lot more pressure on United to suspend Antony. United have known about the situation for months, but it's kind of been quiet. It's only been reported in Brazil. But obviously, recent things that have come out, the photos, the videos, Man United are under a lot of pressure to suspend Antony like they did with Mason Greenwood. The fact that Antony was dropped from the Brazil squad means that I think, you know, that's a big statement. Now, obviously, you know, it's allegations. I'm not saying that Antony's guilty. I'm not saying that Antony's innocent, and Antony has every right to a fair trial. Antony has every right for United to investigate him fairly, and Antony denies this. Antony says they're false accusations, and if they are false accusations, and if it is proved to be false accusations, then, you know, United need to do their investigation. But essentially, the fact that Brazil have dropped Antony and that this thing is now being investigated by the Greater Manchester Police, United are under a lot of pressure to suspend Antony. Now, I don't know if United will suspend Antony because Arsenal never suspended Thomas Partey. They kind of just let it go. They kind of ignored it, and then it sort of went away. Like, it's not really gone away, the Thomas Partey situation with Arsenal, but it's kind of gone away. And I think that's what United are hoping to do, because I think the difference between Antony and Greenwood is Greenwood had all the audio notes, or all the audio recordings, which kind of made it more real. It was more believable. I think sometimes, when you see messages and you see photos, you can say, oh, that can be faked. Now, I'm not saying it's faked. I think you've got to be really messed up to fake that. And, very few people do fake it, but unfortunately it happens, and you have to be really messed up to fake something like that. But United could say, oh, it's just pictures. It's just she said, he said. Whereas with Greenwood, there was all the audio. So it was a little bit more than he said, she said, which is why they suspended Greenwood. And also Greenwood was charged by the Greater Manchester Police. Antony's being investigated. He's not been charged. So I think they will be United's reasonings for maybe keeping Antony if they do. United refused to comment on the situation, but they are under pressure to suspend Antony. But considering that John Murtough was willing to bring back Greenwood, I don't think they're going to suspend Antony unless it really hits out, unless maybe there's charges on him, unless more comes out in leaks. I have a feeling that Antony will likely stay at United, depending on how that goes. However, if the dressing room feel uncomfortable about it, then it could be a problem. Now, a player that is set to leave United is Donny van de Beek. If you're not aware, Donny van de Beek has been dropped from the Man United squad. Eric Ten Hag was very frustrated that Donny did not accept the loan moves that came for him. Donny got loan offers from teams like FC Lorient, but he actually didn't want to go there. And then the last hour of the transfer window, he went back to FC Lorient and basically begged for a loan move. And they said, no, you had the opportunity to come to us on loan. You waited for us, and now you've got no options. You want to go out on loan. Now, only certain transfer windows are open in the likes of Turkey and Saudi Arabia. And Donny van de Beek's best bet of leaving United is going to Turkey. And he's basically been told by Ten Hag, you can't stay. He's not in the dressing room. He's not in the training. He's not in the squad. Dangor and Nejbri were picked over him. He's essentially been frozen out by Ten Hag. It's come out today that Fenerbahce and Galatasaray are set to compete for Donny van de Beek. It was said that Fenerbahce and Galatasaray are reportedly going head-to-head for the signature of van de Beek, according to a Turkish publication. It went into detail saying that van de Beek's future at Old Trafford is absolutely dead in the water. He's not even in the Champions League squad as well. Obviously, he's 26. He had a breakthrough season at Ajax, but he went to United and he never made it at United. Obviously, Ten Hag came in last season. We thought this would be getting the best out of Donny van de Beek, and it just didn't really happen. When he played, he wasn't great. But it was more the fact that I think, he just had all those injuries, didn't get a run at games. And Donny van de Beek's been put up for sale all summer because Ten Hag couldn't guarantee in game time. Ten Hag actually said after the Wolves game, when asked why Donny van de Beek wasn't in the squad, he said that Donny van de Beek's head's not at Manchester United. He wants to move. He's not in the squad. Ten Hag does not want to bring Donny van de Beek back to United because he knows that his head's not at United. He knows that, Donny doesn't feel a part of United. He wanted to leave. And Ten Hag doesn't want someone in the dressing room that was kind of desperate to leave. The head's not at United because essentially they're only a distraction, and that can bring negative vibes. Eric Bailly wasn't allowed back to main training. Eric Bailly wasn't allowed back to the dressing room because he was causing issues. Donny van de Beek doesn't want to be at United. He's not happy here. Ten Hag doesn't want him around because it's going to cause a negative vibe. Jadon Sancho coming out and speaking out against the manager. Again, Ten Hag's really unhappy with that. Ten Hag's thinking about whether Sancho should play again or not. And the whole Sancho situation depends on if he apologises to Ten Hag and they hash it out. But Ten Hag is still frustrated about the Sancho situation. And if this continues and gets bad, then Sancho will be kicked out of the dressing room. And of course, if the Antony thing escalates, he might completely be removed and suspended by the club. So not the nicest time to be a United fan. And I guess the only positive news is that Wan-Bissaka is doing well at the moment. Delo's looking good at left back. I mean, positivity is I thought Højlund looked good. I thought the fullbacks have looked good. And Wan-Bissaka might be rewarded for that. And I've actually wanted to talk about Wan-Bissaka in relation to Sancho in a second. But it was said by Fabrizio Romano that Manchester United want to discuss a new deal for Wan-Bissaka. Negotiations will follow soon. Wan-Bissaka will give priority to United. So, this is a bit of a shock for me, this Wan-Bissaka contract. I love Wan-Bissaka. I think he's great. But the reason it's a shock is because last year, Wan-Bissaka was the player that Ten Hag wanted sold more than anyone. Wan-Bissaka was a player that Man United seemed absolutely desperate to sell. Before the World Cup, Wan-Bissaka only managed 4 minutes of football for Manchester United. He was completely frozen out. He was given that Donny van de Beek treatment. He barely played at all. Jadon Sancho is complaining about his lack of game time, but Jadon Sancho is still getting a fair few minutes. Wan-Bissaka wasn't even given a chance, not even in the Carabao Cup games. He was frozen out. It was always Delo. And then there was an injury to Delo, and Wan-Bissaka had to play. And Ten Hag didn't want to play Wan-Bissaka. He wanted him sold in January. He had Frimpong lined up, and Wan-Bissaka played. And Wan-Bissaka played well. Then Wan-Bissaka played again, and he played well again. And then Wan-Bissaka got his head down. He worked really hard in training. And now he's gone from a player that Ten Hag wanted out, Ten Hag wanted gone, Ten Hag did not want to even want around the squad, to now being a player that Ten Hag might be giving a new deal to. And you look at that and you look at the Jadon Sancho situation and you go, if you're Jadon Sancho, instead of complaining that you're getting limited minutes, maybe you do what Wan-Bissaka did. You work even harder in training, and then when you get your chance, because you've worked so hard in training, you're at match sharpness, and when you get your chance, you take it, and you'll get more and more chances. And with the situation looming over Antony, it's like Sancho's spoken out at the worst time, because I think he could have got his chances. And I think Wan-Bissaka is the prime example. Not wanted, frozen out. He was more frozen out than Sancho has ever been. There was reports that Wan-Bissaka was not liked by Ten Hag and was a distraction in the dressing room. But Wan-Bissaka got a chance. He took it. He worked hard. He's rewarded with a new contract. For me, that shows that if Erik Ten Hag gives you a chance and you work hard and you take your chance, you'll get more chances to come. I think Erik Ten Hag does reward people on form. Yes, there's favouritism towards Antony. I agree, but Sancho, yes, was good in pre-season and deserved to play certain games over Antony at right wing, but Sancho's not been brilliant. I think if Sancho, when he did have his chances, took them really well and was really good, he would have had more chances. And I think Wan-Bissaka is the prime example. Dalot kept playing. Wan-Bissaka got a chance, he took it. Wan-Bissaka trained hard, and Wan-Bissaka, who looked to have no future at United, could be getting a surprise new contract, a surprise new deal. He could be the new long-term right back. And that says to me, that's what working hard gets you. Now, I don't know if Wan-Bissaka's the level to be the new long-term right back at United. I think Wan-Bissaka is a fantastic player, and I really like Wan-Bissaka, but I almost think Wan-Bissaka is the perfect backup right back, if that makes sense. Someone that's a backup, someone that's your second right back, because Wan-Bissaka has the ability to play one-on-one against any player in the world, and I think he's perfect for certain games, and I think he's a perfect depth option. But I think if we want to go to the next level, we'll want to get a world-class right back, and then Wan-Bissaka is one of the best rotational options at right back you could get. I could almost see Man City having Wan-Bissaka as a second right back option. He's one of those guys that I think is a good player. He works hard. But for me, I love Dalot. I love Wan-Bissaka. I think Dalot's been fantastic on the left-hand side. And I think Dalot and Wan-Bissaka have done enough to deserve new deals, absolutely. But I do think maybe right back could be a situation that might be addressed in the summer. Just have someone that's a little bit better going forward and more suited to Ten Hag's system. But you have to give it to Wan-Bissaka. He worked hard. He put his head down and he got back in the squad. And I think that's what Jadon Sancho should be looking up to, not complaining or any of that stuff. But that is the transfer roundup, guys. That is a news roundup on all the news surrounding United. 4 players that were here last week might not be coming back. Wan-Bissaka is getting a surprise new deal, and he's deserved that. Smash a like, smash a subscribe. I'll be back live around 6 p.m. tonight. See you then. Bye.